honourable member from Regina Capel.
The finance minister is about to impose another job-killing, wage-cutting, price-hiking tax on Canadians, and she wants us to believe the latest fairy tale that somehow we'll all be better off if the Prime Minister just raises taxes again. We've heard this for 9 years. Let's take a look at the result. Canada is on track for the worst decline in living standards in 4 decades. 9 out of 10 middle-class families now pay more in income taxes, and Stats Canada says that Liberal policies since 2015 have cost Canadians $4,200 in lost wages per worker. They've made the middle class worse off with their last 8 budgets. Why should anyone believe that the 9th time is the charm?
The Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, for the past 8 weeks, we have watched the unedifying spectacle of the Conservatives squiggling and squirming, deflecting and evading. But today they have no choice. Today they had to pick a side. And we're seeing now the side that they have chosen. The Conservatives are coming out against fairness. They think a nurse or a plumber should pay tax at a higher rate than a multimillionaire. Canadians are watching. Canadians now see whose side the Conservatives are on.
The honourable member from Regina Capel.
For 9 years, Canadians have suffered from the terrible consequences of Liberal economic policies. And now, what are they doing? For young Canadians struggling to be able to afford to buy their first home, they're raising taxes on home builders. For families barely able to afford groceries and lined up at food banks, they're raising taxes on the farmers who produce the food. And for thousands of Canadians who have gone years without having a family doctor, they're chasing even more doctors away with a new tax on medical professions. How is any of that fair?
The Deputy Prime Minister and the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have been trying so hard to fake it. They have been trying so hard to pretend they actually care about working Canadians. But today, there's a vote coming, and they have had to finally pick a side. Today, every single member of this House is going to have to choose. Are you on the side of a nurse, a plumber, a teacher, or are you on the side of a multimillionaire? And the Conservatives are very clear. They're against fairness. They're in favour of the wealthy lobbyists who advise them.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
Canadians are finding that the harder that they work, the more they are punished. The incompetent finance minister wants people to believe that her job-killing taxes impacts only the very rich. It's doctors, it's farmers, it's small business owners, it's a restaurant that's been in the community and leases its building, it's tradespeople like plumbers and roofers who reinvest in their businesses and their equipment and eventually want to stop working. She's raising their taxes in the name of fairness because she spent all the money that she already took for them. How is any of that fair?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, one thing that is kind of astonishing is that after having been mute, or you might want to say gagged, for 8 weeks, the Conservatives have finally found some passion around this issue. And isn't it astonishing that when given an actual opportunity to choose to side with a plumber, to choose to side with a nurse, or to side with their multi-millionaire lobbyist pals, the Conservatives are choosing to vote against fairness. Canadians are watching.
The honourable member from Thornhill.
The answer again proves that the minister does not read her own briefing notes. When a small business owner retires and sells their assets, the minister wants to take a bigger piece of that because she couldn't control her own spending. Those are the people that the Liberals call rich. They're people like my own father. If he was alive today, he'd be left high and dry in his retirement years, the years where he needed those earnings the most. He started as a taxi driver in this country and went on to invest in a small business year after year in a personal corp because he didn't have a pension. How is any of that fair?
Here, here, here. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, squiggle and squirm as you might, it is really hard to put lipstick on a pig. And that is exactly what the Conservatives are trying to do today. The Conservatives have have found themselves unable when it really counted to side with working people. They have been unable to vote for fairness, to vote for the nurse, to vote for the plumber, and now they're evading responsibility for that choice. But we won't let them. We're in favor of fairness, and they are not.
The honourable member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
This fast and furious finance minister unveiled her latest job-killing scheme to screw over Canada's middle class to bankroll her incompetency. Newcomers like my family came here for the Canadian dream, had very little, worked hard, saved money, and started a small business. She calls them tax cheats and vilifies their success. This job-killing capital gains tax hike will destroy their life's work. Hey, they can save it all by cancelling their Disney Plus. But before this minister runs away from the mic again, does she think her attack on small businesses is actually fair?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, for the past 8 weeks, the Conservatives have been dithering and delaying and deflecting. They were squirming. They were so uncomfortable because they recognized they had to make a really big choice. Were they actually going to be on the side of working people, Canadians who live paycheck to paycheck, or on the side of multimillionaires? Well, today, we know whose side they're on. We are voting for fairness. The Conservatives are voting against it, as we always knew they would.
The honourable member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Her and the leader of the NDP can do as many photo ops with their bikes as they want, but these champagne socialists are taking money from the middle class to give to rich liberal insiders, their elitist Bay Street buddies, and the bloated bureaucracy. This job-killing tax hike vilifies success, punishing small businesses and their workers. That's why GDP per person in Canada is collapsing and Canadians are poor. Before she spends another $1 billion next week to service her debt, can she tell us, is this fair?
I ask all members on all sides of the House to please do not express yourselves unless you're recognized by the Speaker. It's for a whole bunch of reasons, but the very least of all is so that we can hear the question and hear the answer. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to read out a quote from a debate in the House of Commons. Quote, "Monstrous increases in capital gains are making the rich vastly richer and creating a kind of aristocratic feudal economy." You know who said that? The member for Carleton. Oh. He did, yeah. And today, he is leading his party in voting to make those gains even more monstrous, in voting in favor of that aristocratic feudal economy. Well, we vote for fairness. They vote against it.
Alors,
Order, please.
ask members to the right, please, to keep their comments unless they're recognized by the chair.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. The Coalition Sauvons-Lassique informed us in an open letter that the NFB has decided to modernize its aid to independent cinema program. Modernizing should mean improving, but unfortunately that's not the case. Before, to access the NFB's editing rooms, there were two conditions: be a filmmaker and have a project funded by public institution. The NFB would impose 3 new conditions, including compliance with its editorial line. When a crown corporation wants to impose a message, it's called propaganda. Will the Minister allow this to happen? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank my colleague for his question. I'm aware that currently the NFB is looking at its program to support independent producers. They have a clear mandate to support independent producers in all their diversity, including French. I will ensure that they continue to respect their mandate, and I invite producers to share their concerns with the NFB management. They are independent, and they will make decisions accordingly. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Pierre Perrault, Norman McLaren, Léa Poole, Micheline Lacteau, Denis Arcand, Pierre Falardeau, Denis Villeneuve. All these Quebec filmmakers have benefited from the NFB, a veritable laboratory for our independent and audacious cinema. And it's a safe bet that none of them would match the NFB's editorial line today. Above all, none would agree to submit to its editorial line. We know the NFB is independent. The minister doesn't need to remind us, but we thought our cinema was too. Can the minister tell the NFB to drop its ideological criteria for our filmmakers? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the years, we've always supported the NFB, among others, because we know how important it is for the next generation of cinema in Quebec and Canada. All of the names given by my colleague highlights how much talent and quality we have in Quebec and Canada, so we will continue to support them. And that's why we've increased just about all budgets in culture, because we know how important it is. And we've done that because we believe in our talent, in our culture, and we will continue to do so, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Drummond. Canada's Independent Cinema Assistance Program was working well. No one was complaining. But it lacked a little too much constraint for the NFB's taste. And that's how it is everywhere now with crown corporations. Letting artists be artists is no longer an option, it seems. They have to be told who to be, what to think, how to express themselves on what issues. They have to be molded, put into boxes, all the time. The case of the NFB is worrying, and it's natural for the cultural sector to mobilize and protest. Now, which side is the minister on? Art or state propaganda? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, I thank the producers of the coalition for their work, all those in Quebec who stand up to ask institutions to support them well. And the government is listening. We've shown it budget after budget since 2015 by setting up new supports, especially with telefilm. We support the NFB. We've added money to the Canadian Media Fund, all to ensure that we have diversity in content, that there's capacity for producers to contribute their talent to our screens, and to have Quebec and Canada shine around the world. We will continue to be there for our cultural industry, Mr. Speaker.